it's up to you the route that you want to take to the BZA if your project cannot be approved as a matter of right. One of the things that we do in our office is we rely on the zoning map that was talked about. And if you go to the Office of Zoning's website, which we go to on a daily basis, it gives you, depending on what address you plug into the system, it prints out a map. And this is what the zoning map looks like. It tells you about where your property is situated. And then you can see some blue lines on here. So these are the dividing lines that separates a commercial zone from a residential zone and so forth. So you can see how your property is zoned. The other piece that might be important to you is the zoning regulations that are online. On the homepage of the Office of Zoning, on the right-hand side, you will see the zoning regulations and the zoning map. Those are two key things that you guys can use. The zoning regulations, depending on what the zoning map says and how your property is zoned or the property you're interested in, you can go to the zoning regulations, look for that particular section. For example, if it's an R4 district, a residential district, you can go to the R4 district and it will tell you about the general provisions, the uses as a matter of right in the R4 district, and so forth. So you can find out a lot of useful information about your zone. But again, my office, we review building permits, certificates of occupancy permits, and home occupation permits, and make a determination as to whether or not you can move forward with the construction project, you can occupy your building, or you can have your business at home. So, yeah.
Mr. Reed, and can you just correlate that to a map amendment? At what stage would the zoning administrator get involved in the map amendment?
Sure. So if there is a request to have a property or an area rezoned, if it's going from a commercial zone, for example, in this particular zoning shot that I took, there is a piece of property here that is currently being rezoned, and it's in red. It's being rezoned, it's in a commercial district, CM1.
Right.
And it's being rezoned to R4, and I think this is a property that's that property. It's being rezoned to the residential R4 property here. So for us, this means that once if it's approved and if the zone is changed from CM1 to R4, if an application comes through our office within this particular section, we would look at the zoning regulations for R4 because it has been rezoned to R4. So all the regulations that govern R4 would be applicable to this particular area. So a map amendment simply means once it's rezoned, we take a look at the zoning regulations and we move forward based on the requirements for that new zone, that's R4 zone, I guess, in this case.
Well, I'm really kind of confused. Because that means now to go to residential from commercial.
Right.
So that's what's happening there in the city. A lot of commercial, residential property has been rezoned.
Right.
But who makes that determination before you get to that point? Because I think, I knew the answer. I knew the answer.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
But I'm really kind of upset because we continue to see property, and being a DC resident, I can tell you property that was residential for years, and all at once is commercial. And no one came back to the community of the people who live there to say anything to them about being able to build a 2 or 3 story place or having a store downstairs. And you know, when we were kids, if you had a store downstairs, you were really poor or you owned the whole property, but you didn't live over the top of a store. And so now it's a new thing now when you're building these stores downstairs and you're building these apartments upstairs. And I'm just trying to see if you explain like you said, if the zoning is that, I think that makes sense that what we're talking about, looking at planning and zoning, because it is, I'm not saying it's that easy, but I think it's that easy in some areas, in some parts of the city. And I just wanted to be clear about that. Thank you.
I wanted to ask a question. Ms. Bushman, I know the zoning commission looks at the criteria of the summary of the requested action, and so you all make the determination from there. And then if it's a,
and when we say we, let me be clear.
I know it's the commission.
It's the
I know it's the
commission.
body. I know. But you're the legal mind behind all of this.
No.
No,
I have
know you're not.
no deciding
I
factor.
understand. But I just wanted the community clear that it first goes through zoning to and you all are just looking at the specific permits that are related to the project,
Right.
building, and the
Exactly.
construction of that?
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, okay.
They also are enforcing the
Right.
order.
I was-
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we do have an enforcement arm, so I do serve as a zoning enforcement officer as well. So if, if there are concerns about properties in the district, if there's illegal construction, if there, is an illegal use of a property, that would be routed to our office as well for investigation or inspection.
How does one change the zoning if you don't like what it's zoned as, if you don't want a commercial and you want to change it to residential and you don't own the property, do you have a right to change? How do you change that?
Well, that's exactly why it's sometimes in rulemaking. And anyone can petition the commission for a rulemaking. And, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be granted. It may not even get set down, but that has happened.
Like the community, so many signatures change?
They could go to the Office of Planning with a number of signatures and say, we would really like to see this part of these parcels be rezoned. But let me be clear, the comprehensive plan comes first. So the mayor is the chief planning officer for the District of Columbia, and the Office of Planning comes under the mayor. And the mayor and the Office of Planning put together the comprehensive plan. That was last reviewed in 2006. And the zoning regulations may not be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. So that's a sort of baseline.
I just wanted to put a quick caveat in there since we're talking about the comprehensive plan. The most recent comprehensive plan is scheduled to be reviewed or revised, I believe, in 2015, but we're ramping up this year. So a process will be in place, and this will be our second time around making revisions to the comprehensive plan. So if there are any conflicts or any parcels that you might be interested in having considered a change in zoning, there's an opportunity for you to at least petition to have that done. So we do lots of advertising. We come out to the community to talk about the comprehensive plan review process. There are forms for you to fill out. So it's probably a year-long process, if not longer.
Oh,
So
multiple years.
yeah. So you'll have opportunity to do that. So.
And let me just be clear, when the mayor issues the update to the comprehensive plan, it goes to the council for its review, amendment, and vote. And so that's the process for the comprehensive plan. The zoning regulations are the sole province of the zoning commission for the District of Columbia, which is made up of both federal and district appointees.
I do want to add, and then Mr. Todd, if you all can get ready, I do want to add, Ms. Richmond, you can speak. You said the phrase, which is the one that rings in the neighborhoods where people take it to court, which is may not be inconsistent. And I will say that ambiguous phrase is the precipitating phrase that some proposed development in opposition throughout the city has taken the zoning commission's approval of PUDs based on it may not be inconsistent with the comp plan to court. And I certainly know at least 3 neighborhoods uptown and 1 in our community, hence 901. Those residents have counsel, and that debate had to do with whether it was inconsistent. And then the language said it may not. So that certainly is a phrase of legal contention that neighborhoods are responding to when they're opposing certain development projects that may have been approved by the zoning commission. Is that not correct?
Well, let's just say that when the zoning commission has made a determination, they're basing it on the advice of the Office of Planning that gives them a report that says whether or not they believe this to be consistent or inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. And, reasonable minds can differ in in these situations, but the zoning commission's orders have been upheld in the Court of Appeals fairly consistently.
Oh, I'm clear, I'm just saying.
Just
that
said
there
it.
is- Yep.
We like to think that
Yeah,
we are very careful about these things. But a map amendment case is different
Yeah.
from a PUD, where a PUD has community benefits and amenities, and there's negotiations of that nature. This is more about whether or not a particular parcel and plan and project meet the zoning envelope and the zoning regulations for the desired zoning.
And we will have you back, Ms. Bushman. So, Mr. Carter, if you want to be, are you okay right there?
Yeah,
Can
I
everyone
may,
see?